our definition of organizations, we said there's a social unit. People relate with one another. And so we'll draw some ideas from it. We'll draw ideas from social psychology, combining mental processes within social settings. And one social setting is within the organization. How we feel, we think, we do when we are in that social setting. For example, political studies or political science, because whether we like it or not, organizations are political systems. Sometimes, I'm sure at some point you realize that the politics that goes on in an organization may be more than what we are seeing NPP and DC. That one we are able to talk about, we all make fun and go on. But in your organization, the politics there, some people what they are going through is so terrible. But who are you to say it? And so we fall on NPP and DC and discuss them and forget about us. Organizations are political. Economics, we are saying organizations relate with the environment, and therefore we are likely to draw some concepts. And that is why studying organizational behavior is a lot, and then it entails, it's a bit of a difficulty, because you are drawing ideas from all these number of disciplines. So you realize that sometimes for you to understand fully, you might have to get a book in psychology itself to read, to help you appreciate something. But we are going to draw a number of few ideas. And that is also why the topics are a lot, even though we've minimized it. What you are having is some minimization. I've deleted a number of things because, for example, my undergraduate students treated last semester about 12 topics. Organizational behavior. Because we are trying to understand so many things, thinking, feeling, and action, and that is broad. And so, for example, we look at it even in terms of levels of study. We'll look at organizational behavior from the individual level, because it is believed that when you go to an organization, you go in there as an individual. And so as an individual, your own thinking, feeling, and action would influence how you behave in the organization. At some point, you relate with others. You may form groups. You may be part of a committee. So behavior within that would also shape your own thinking, your own feelings, your own action. Then the organization, its processes, its practices would also shape how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. And so you realize that the way things are done in organization, and I'm sure very soon, or if you are not aware, very soon, you realize the way things are done in KNUST. Here, at some point, you have assignments. At some point, you are writing exams. If you set phone is not allowed, this is how things are done, this is what you have to do. It will start shaping you yourself and the way you behave. The fact that you are even coming to lectures at 7 means that if it is work, you may not go 7. Let's assume. Lecture is starting at 7. It means if you are used to sleeping and waking up probably at 5, and then even 5, when the alarm sounds 5, then that is when you turn a bit, because you don't want to get that straight. 10, about 5 minutes, then you wake up. You realize now you may have to wake up at 4 in order to fulfill KNUST's mandate in that organization. So organizations, processes. So we are going to look at them in a number of ways. So we'll try to understand it based on the topics. But we are limiting the topics. We'll pick and choose from the number of topics. Some from the individual, some from the group, and some from the organization. And that shapes and influences people's thinking, their feelings, their actions when they are in and around the organization. Now let's try to understand some historical foundations of organizational behavior. It says that organizational behavior as a field emerged around the 1940s when work organizations came in and people were trying to understand how to manage the work, how to manage the organization and the people in there. And so that resulted in a field emerging called organizational behavior. Then a number of researchers also wanted to understand how to manage all these. And it says that the list is endless. People said people should be managed this way, work should be managed this way. It's so many. But we are just going to try to understand just a few of ideas concerning managing people, work, and organizations. And I'm sure most of them you would have also treated it in HR. For example, scientific management, I know you did, isn't it? Yes. So we'll look at it, a bit of scientific management, a bit of human relations. You did that one as well, isn't it? The systems theory, probably not. And then the contingency. We'll look at it from these broad ones, even though there are a number of them. So starting with scientific management, who can share what scientific management is? Scientific management. I know you did it in HR, isn't it?
In procedure and principles.
HR. You've done HR?
Yes, no.
Procedure and principles.
I got from different disciplines.
Pardon?
I got that from different disciplines.
Other side from, how many of us were in the HR class? Last week.
No, we mean, I thought we
No, just meaning that HR class.
Oh, okay.
The one you did last 2 weeks.
Oh,
That one. Not much. Okay, you did something like scientific management. Scientific management.
Yes.
Okay, so who is sharing? Yes. The name is Betty. Okay.
You can say artistic and scientific.
Louder. They all would say want to hear.
That there is one acceptable way of doing things. So people should need to work and then be motivated for it.
Okay, so one acceptable way of doing things. So it means when you work based on how you did work, then you are rewarded. Any other? Yes. But you know the thing and you were saying, yes.
It also brought about the emergence of trade union during the time of Taylor. And again, he also advocated for the best way that HR should make good use of its resource.
Okay, so best way, best practice, yes. Rules and regulations, order of the day, yes. Any last one? Anyone? Yes. Then one best way of doing things. Great. So scientific management say efficiency is everything.
Okay.
For them, the idea is to achieve efficiency, productivity. Then you include science. Science is the rules, the regulations, one way of doing things, and all of that. So he came up with all those ideas because he had some thinking concerning work, organizations, and people. For him, I don't know whether this was shared, he believed that workers were solely motivated by money and were too stupid to develop the most efficient way of performing a task. So one best way, division of labor. Work is standardized, it is simplified. When you perform work, you are rewarded according to it. When it comes to the division of labor, managers are playing their role as managers. If you are an employee, you are too stupid to come up with an efficient way. So you follow the orders of the manager. Reward is time component added to it. So that is how we started the timing. So he's saying that to achieve efficiency, that effectiveness, that productivity, you need to include science. And components of science is what he's saying, the rules and regulations. Work should be standardized, should be simplified, division of labor, authority, hierarchy, and all of that. So he's saying the best way, one best practice. And that is why we tend to still use the word best practices. One way of doing things. So if you are managing people, you adopt the same way. If the person doesn't work, the person isn't rewarded. And so things are done using the rules in the organization. And so it is said that some modern organizations adopted it, and one that earlier on adopted this principle was Ford. And that is why beginning all cars were Ford made, because they adopted division of labor, standardization, division of work, simplification, time component, all of it when performing a task. So in the production of cars, for example, means somebody is dealing with the door, somebody is dealing with the tires. The person is doing this at this time, 10 to 2. This one is doing, so there was that efficiency. At some point you become so good at what you are doing because the work is the same all the time. You become so good at it. And so managers are there monitoring. There's no need talking because you have time component added to it. So it is said that one person that adopted it earlier on was Ford. In applying it, looking at it from his assembly line. And so he was able to do well even though time changes. And so now we've seen time changing. So the fact that there was labor union was because people become at some point became dissatisfied. If you are doing the simple work, they say, well, sometimes you get bored. If they are insisting on setting rules and regulations, definitely labor union will come in to be able to make sure people do the right thing. So people thought that they were being exploited, so it led to those issues with labor. But it says that it has still given us the ground rule for a lot of things that we do. Pay system started from there. And that is why now we have your description. If you perform this task, you are paid this. If you don't perform this, you are not paid certain things. The next one is human relations. I don't know whether you treated human relations. Human relations. HR, human relations. Anyone to share human relations? Human relations. You didn't. Okay, the human identity. Yes.
Madam, please. With the human relations,
it's basically a paradigm shift from Taylor's when they said humans aren't commodities. So they are, you make them feel comfortable and then the productivity will come. So it's just basically making them feel comfortable after the whole thing.
That's good. So human relations is saying, what about the people? Taylor said people are solely motivated by money and they were too stupid. Human relations is saying, what about the people in there? People are, like he said, not commodities. They are a resource, but the human resource. And so it is important we appreciate the social aspect. It's not work. People may be there working, but it's not always about money. This was based on a research that was conducted where one part of the research, there were some women working and then they were in a room and sometimes the researchers will intentionally dim the light. It's as if there's an issue with the light. Sometimes they were doing a few things to see whether the women would continue working even though there were a number of challenges. But they realized that the women did what they were supposed to do and even more because they were just conversing with one another, sharing with one another, relating with one another. And so that is when they realized that work is not just time component, simplification, this. But some are there because there's that relationship, that interaction. So the social components became important. It is from there that we have the human resources. They are a resource, but they are human. You can't treat them as a machinery where every rule is so rigid that you have to obey this rule. Okay, so they said that once you motivate, people come to work based on a number of things and not just money. And so once you even motivate people, they are likely to work. They believe that once there's some autonomy, people can not work 8 to 5. So 7 to 8, you do this. 8 to 9, you do this. You go to the washroom 10 to 11. And then you go to autonomy. Let people 8 to 5. They are working. They are supposed to do at least a bit of autonomy, flexibility. Somebody can be able to do things. So they decided to bring in the social need of people, the psychological need of people. And that is where they said organizations can have the formal, but they are informal as well. Believing that people can relate so nicely that even when people relate so nicely, they won't even fight, there won't even be conflict. Because people are there not just for money, but for a number of needs, one being the social need. So they got in, what about the people in there? What about the people? Then at some point, other theories came up with the systems theory. We are looking at that in relationship with the environment. This is where we started by seeing organizations being related to the environment. Systems theory said that in trying to understand organization, it can be looked at from holistic perspectives. Holistic perspective. Now, first of all, he says that organizations relate with each other and relate with elements outside the organization. So they said that organizations are open systems. Organizations are open systems. All this while, people thought organizations were closed systems. It means it has nothing to do with the environment. But the systems theory is saying organizations are open systems. You can't do anything without affecting the external. And now we are saying organizations are linked to the environment. If something political is happening, definitely it would affect the organization. If it is social, if it is technology, if it is legal, when there's a new rule, these organizations are to do this, everybody will have to obey it. And so they said organizations are open systems. This is because organizations will take input from the environment, transform them within the organization, and then the output will go back to the environment. Let me use ordinary soap making. And us, as the organization, we make liquid soap. So Becky is our class rep, so she is the CEO. And then the assist will be the deputy. And some of us are managers, some of us are workers. And then we want to make soap. We are going to make soap. Where are we going to get the ingredients? Like the sodas, the whatever. Where are we going to buy them? The market. Is the market part of our organization?
No.
So it's external environment. So we'll pick all the ingredients from there. When we come in, then whether we are creaming, whether we are doing what, we make it nice, process it, make it very, very nice. We label it, and then we want to sell. How are we going to sell it? Okay. So organizations have interactions with the environment. Organizations will take input from the environment, process it, and then output. Even as human resources, organizations will take human resources out from the environment, and then people will apply based on their interest. Then organization will take them, select them, train them, motivate them, so probably 60 years when they're supposed to go back out of the organization. So they said organizations are open systems. And so organizations have that interdependence, not just within the organization, HR relating with production, relating with accounting and others, but also because they relate with the environment. And that is why some believe that there is that organizational environmental fit when it comes to organization. So whatever we do would have an effect on the environment. And that is why now issues of sustainability is coming up. Sustainability. Looking at issues from broader perspective, looking at how your behavior within organization can affect somebody out there. Let's assume after this class, in lunchtime, we all brought our food and we're eating, and at some point we later at the end we're going to throw all the rubbish, everything here. And then tomorrow no one has swept. And so we open the door is smelling. The place is smelling. Can we have a class here? We have to go and look for another room. But the other room, if this is our class, now we are moving to another person's space. So what we did here is going to affect another person. They may have to bring cleaners. Probably let's assume that it was so bad that they brought TV media people came to cover it. And then you are there, TV3 is reporting, the MSc class who has lectures on Saturday. We understand they are so dirty. Look at the room and what they are doing. And then probably you have a friend who knows you are part of this MSc class. The friend is asking, is that your class they are talking about? Hey, I didn't know you are that dirty. It's just here, but probably look at how. So issues of sustainability, that is why some people believe that even when it comes to our climate, it is changing because of what we are doing to our own environment. So it is believed that what we do in the organization would impact. So we do things taking into consideration the environment. shouldn't believe we are closed system. What we do affect just us. Definitely won't affect just us. It would affect somebody else out there. Systems theory. And so it says that systems theory, because it draws ideas from a bit of biological sciences, also looks at organizations sometimes as organic matter. Organic matter. So there's one theorist who came up with the idea. Then we can look at organizations as metaphors. And look at organization as metaphor. Metaphor being a figure of speech, transferring an object to another, a known object to another. And so he came up with some metaphors, came up with some of the metaphors. He came up with about 8. Let's briefly discuss them. For example, he says that one of such metaphor is that organizations can be seen as machines and people are parts. It's almost like scientific management. Things are hard. Rules, follow rules systematically because organizations want that efficiency, effectively. So there are some organizations, when you go there, rules are very, very rigid. It's almost like the machine with those hard parts, processes, rules, and all of that. So somebody was sharing how in some organization, if you are first degree holder and then you come in for, you show an interest in the organization, during the selection process, they may ask you, knowing that you are a female, then they will let you know that you can't marry for probably the first year or the second year if you are a lady. If you decide to marry first year, you probably second year, you got married. Then even if you have to start a family, you have to tell management that I'm about starting a family. Rigid rules. Probably they know that when you start a family, your work is such that somebody should understand you, isn't it? So they will need to match you with somebody so that when you are not there, you see the way we were laughing, we were not even thinking about that. Rigid rules. You don't want anything to be done right. So sometimes we look at some organizations and we think we see that of the machine. You say sometimes organizations are like organisms where they need to adapt to their environment. Adapt to their environment. Employees are complex, are people with complex needs. So people go to the organizations not just for money, but it says people have a number of needs. But organizations also as organisms means that organizations will adapt to our environment. We are organisms. So we may need to push again. Even though you need to leave a space for it. It says that organizations are organisms. Using as human beings as organisms, it means that we are giving birth to, isn't it? At some point we grow. Then we become older. When we are much older and God hasn't called us, we are there. But we adapt to our environment, but at some point definitely we'll do what? We'll die. Whether we like it or not, isn't it? Definitely will. Because we are adapting to our environment. Recently I was watching something where they were showing the present Queen of England when she was a baby. So they will show a clip, a baby, then they'll stay the year. When she was a young lady, then when she became an adult, then when she ruled, and then every year they seem to be showing. And you see the progression, adapting to the environment, growing. Now she's much older, now you see. So we also the same. And organizations would also adapt to their environment. There are some organizations that used to be in existence that we may not see them or they are no more, because they have adapted to their environment. I remember at some point, if you want to make a call, where do you go? Go to a communication center, you go into that small booth, and then when your money is finished, you come and pay again, and then you talk. Now where are they? Adapted to their environment. They are not existing. Organizations as brains, where it is believed that people in the organizations are always learning, making decisions. So organizations as brains where it is believed that the organization believes that learning or coming up with issues relating to decision making will help. So for some organizations, they are always encouraging people to go through training, seminars, conferences, because they believe that you learn something. And when you come back, so some organizations call themselves learning organization. Means that they always want to learn something, come up with something new. Some organizations are cultures, where we see more of their belief systems, we see more of their norms, we see more of what they do. Now we see quite a number of organizations having given their Friday work. Based on that uniform, you know where the person is working. So based on those values and norms. Sometimes based on their mission statement, we see how things are done there. Organizations sometimes are said to be psychic prisons in which people are trapped by their mindset. So people believe that what happens in the organization is reality to them. So their whole behavior, thinking is just in line with things done in the organization, as if they are prisoners in their own organization. One organization that sometimes comes to mind, I don't know whether anyone is working here like that, is the military. You realize that wherever they are, the way they do their things is the same. It's almost when they're in the barracks, it's what we do things, it's almost the same. So when they go out, reality is what exists in their organization. They see everything with the eye of that